Hi, everybody, and welcome to week 3 of Social and Economic Justice 2. This week, we are going to be focusing on assessing communities' needs and assets. And I'm going to dive right in here to your learning resources and assignments for the week. We have quite a few assignments. This is a little bit of a busy week compared to the first 2 weeks. So in week 3, we're going to be providing you with some skills and tools that can be used to help you assess community functioning. We're going to be looking at concepts of community problems, community need, community assets, community mapping, and assessment, and be introducing these and discussing these. And our objectives this week is that you will first be able to describe community problems, community needs, and community assets, and that you'll second be able to start developing some skills in community assessment, including secondary analysis and community mapping. So let's jump into our learning resources for the week. First, you have a PowerPoint presentation that is going to give you sort of a little bit of a theoretical framework as we're thinking about community assessment, and sort of review some definitional things related to community problems and community needs. Your readings for the week all primarily come from the University of Kansas Community Toolbox, with which you are already familiar. The first set of 3 readings relate to community needs and assets, as well as resources. The second set of readings relate to community problems, including sort of how we define and analyze community problems. I didn't quite mean to jump to that. And how we collect information about community problems. And then the third set of readings deals with community interventions. So sort of how we decide where to start and how we sort of choose and adapt community interventions. And as you're thinking about community needs assessment and community intervention, right, there are a lot of parallels related to how we think about interventions with individual clients. Just in the case of communities, we're thinking about how we are assessing needs, identifying problems, and developing intervention plans at the broader community level as opposed to at the individual level, as we would when we're working with clients. You also have a number of supplemental readings that will be useful to you as you are working on your discussion posts and assignments and your group projects. So those are your readings for the week. That's fairly straightforward. So your discussion posts and learning activities for the week, your first discussion post is fairly straightforward. By Thursday, if you haven't already, please make sure you post your screencast video for your My Community in Words and Pictures assignments. That will count as your initial post, and that's due Thursday. So you're simply posting the presentation that you submitted in week 2 so that your classmates can view that. And then by Sunday, you should view and respond to at least two of your classmates' presentations. In your response, you want to discuss the similarities and differences that you see between your community and those of your classmates. So, you know, you could be looking at things that you see in their communities that you find positive, maybe things that you find the most distressing. In your response posts, please make sure that you're incorporating either information from the Seeking the Good Community article or other course resources in your responses. You want to make sure you're supporting the points you make by sort of grounding them and framing them with the course readings. And those 2 responses to classmates are due on Sunday, so that's a fairly straightforward assignment. Make sure you remember to post your presentation on Thursday as well. Next, before I get into these 2 discussion posts on unmet community needs questions and community assets, I'm going to jump down here to this week 3 activity, which is the selection of a community and a community problem. This is something that you are going to be doing together with your group for the group project. So let's jump to this. So by Thursday of week 3, you should connect with your project partner or partners. We do have one group of 3, I believe. And one of your team should email me a message in Canvas with the name of the community and the community problem that you and your partner or partners are planning to examine for the 3 community needs and services assessment assignments. And I have posted a separate video that reviews the first of those assignments that will be due in week 4. And really, this activity and the other 2 discussion posts that I'm going to talk about in a minute are designed to start your process of developing some of the pieces that are going to go in the first part of that community needs and services assessment assignment that is due in week 4. So for this particular activity, you just need to email me. One of you needs to email me the name of the community and the community problem that you're going to be examining. You know, and make sure the community problem that you're selecting is an actual problem in your selected community. You don't want to, you know, you want to do a little bit of research to make sure that it's something that you're going to be able to fully explore and talk about. You don't want to select a problem that you think is there that isn't actually there, because it will make the rest of your assignments a little more challenging. The community and community problem that you're focusing on, you know, we talked a lot in week 2 about how we define community and different ways of thinking about community. So, you know, the community that you're focused on, it could be maybe a specific city or a specific area of a city. It could be a group within a specific city or town or county. So for example, maybe you are interested in the homeless community. And so you decide to focus on homelessness specifically in Philadelphia because that's the community that you and your partner or one of you is working in. That's one example. And maybe the community problem that you're examining in that is, you know, lack of available resources for the homeless community. So that's just one example. There are many others. What I would recommend is that you meet with your partner and you know, and discuss what direction you're going to take. This is due on Thursday, and I will give you feedback fairly quickly on this. The main challenges that I see students have with this, and it sort of errs to both sides, where I see students either selecting a community that's way too broad and will become very overwhelming. And if that's the case, I'll make some suggestions for how you can sort of focus that a little bit more and sort of narrow it down. And sometimes I also see people focus on a problem that's way too specific, and I might suggest that maybe you take a little bit of a broader focus so that you're able to complete the assignments related to the 3-part community needs and services assessment in a way that won't be quite as challenging. But for now, talk to your partner or partners and come up with the name of a community and a community problem. One of you email me that by Thursday. In your email, please make sure that you include both partner or all the partners' names in the email, along with the community name and community problem. If anyone has any questions about that, please feel free to reach out. So once you've done that, then you can move on to these other 2 discussion posts that are really designed to get you and your partner both thinking about a few of the pieces of the first part of the community needs assessment that'll be due in week 4. So your first discussion post deals with unmet community needs. Before you do this post, make sure that you have done the week's readings on community needs and community problems, because they will help you with this. And in order to understand the needs and issues of the community that you and your partner are planning to focus on for your community needs and services assessments, it's going to be really critical to gather input from community members themselves about the needs of the community. So in this post, you are going to identify potential community members who could talk about your selected community's needs and strengths. At this point, you're not being asked to interview anybody. You will need to do that as part of one of your assignments, and I talk about that in the description of your community needs assessment assignment. But don't worry about that right now. For this discussion post, you just need to identify the 2 potential people that you would want to interview. And this is really, again, designed to help you and your partner brainstorm possible key informants for your community needs analysis that's due in week 4. So for this post, you want to, in 1 or 2 sentences, give the name of the community and problem area that you and your partner are hoping to address in your project. Identify 2 people who are knowledgeable about the community and its problem. And ideally, these would be actual people, but you don't need to give me the individual's names. You can just give me their title. So going back to the example, say you and your partner are focusing on the homeless community in Philadelphia. And maybe the two people who are knowledgeable about that community and the problem of lack of access to available resources and shelter beds, maybe the two people who you want to interview related to that are the director of the shelter that you are doing your field placement in, and maybe you want to also interview the director of the city's Office of Homelessness. So those would be examples of two people that would be knowledgeable about that particular community issue that you may want to interview. So that could be your response to the second part of this post. Third, you want to develop 3 specific questions that you would ask each of those people that would provide useful insights into the needs of your community. So those you could potentially ask both people the same set of 3 questions, but most likely you're going to want to tweak them because you're going to be getting sort of different perspectives. So returning to my example of the issue of the homeless community in Philadelphia, maybe you're interviewing a shelter director and you would be asking that person more specifically about the needs of the clients who are coming into that shelter, whereas when you are interviewing the city's director of homeless services, you might want to ask them some questions about how the city allocates funding related to homelessness and shelters. So those questions probably will look a little bit different, or should look a little different for the two people that you're interviewing, though there might be some overlap. And finally, you want to include the reasons why you think these people and questions would be critical. And in doing that, you should include at least 2 references from the readings this week to support your thinking. So for this post, you can consult with and should be discussing this with your dyad partner or partners, but you are each writing your own initial posts, and the questions and the persons that you identify should be different in each partner's post. So you can consult about this, but you are still submitting independent posts that are your own individual work. And that initial post is due Thursday, and your follow-up post is due by Sunday. In your response post, you should respond to at least 1 classmate, and think about other people or questions that might also be important for that person to interview and ask, that would expand and sort of support what your classmate identified. I would also suggest making an effort to apply and reference some of the course readings in your response to your classmate. So again, initial post due Thursday, follow-up response to your classmate due Sunday. So that's that's the unmet community needs questions discussion post. Then you have a community assets discussion post. And in this discussion post, again, before you do it, make sure that you have read the week's readings on community assets and resources, because you'll want to apply those here. All communities have strengths and assets, and understanding these is critical to gaining an understanding of the community as a whole. So in this discussion post, you are going to be identifying possible strengths, assets, and resources from your selected community. And these are going to be strengths and assets and resources that you'll be able to then use in your community needs assessment. So for your initial post, you want to develop a list with a minimum of 5 critical pieces of information that you need in order to be able to understand the strengths of your community. So for example, if you were focusing again on the homeless community in Philadelphia, what 5 pieces of information are needed to understand the strengths of your community? So for each piece of information or variable, what variables or pieces of information would you need? So maybe you would need to know how many people in the city of Philadelphia are homeless, or how many homeless shelters are available, how many organizations are serving the homeless community in Philadelphia, right? Or maybe how much funding is allocated for homeless services in Philadelphia. There would be those would be potential pieces of information that you might need to understand the strengths of the homeless community in Philadelphia. Another example might be, maybe how those who are experiencing homeless view the available services and resources in the city. So for each piece of information that you identify, each of those 5 pieces, include a data source or the methods that you would use to get this information. You don't need to collect the information, but where would you find this information? What data sources might you use? So perhaps maybe you would use census data to understand more information about the population. Maybe there's a city report that provides information on the homeless population in Philadelphia, for example. Maybe in order to understand the experiences of homeless individuals in Philadelphia, maybe you would do some kind of interview or focus group. So think about the data sources and the methods that you would use to get each of these 5 pieces of information. And at this point, you don't need to collect the information, just identify it. And, you know, possible strengths are going to vary by community, right? Strengths can be just defined in a number of different ways. So in thinking about possible strengths in your community, consider this question. What pieces of information could tell you that your community, that your particular community is strong? So you're going to be relying on your own knowledge of the community as well as the readings for the course to this point. You don't want to include demographic information on this list of community strengths. You might need to know demographic information in order to understand the scope of the problem, but that isn't necessarily in and of itself a community strength. You need to be more specific. So what could be some possible indicators of strength in your selected communities? So you can, again, for this post, you can consult with your dyad partner on this, or partners. But you should each write your own initial post, and the 5 critical pieces of information should be different in each partner's post. And again, that initial post is due Thursday, and your response post to one classmate is due on Sunday. And in your response, you want to think about what other pieces of information might expand and support your classmates' work. If anyone has any questions about this, please feel free to reach out. This is sometimes a different way of thinking about things for students. I will post a quick additional tool that you can also use to sort of help organize your thoughts around this that may be helpful to you as well. So those are your assignments for week 3. Again, this week you should absolutely be in touch with your dyad partner and discussing first what community and community problem you're going to focus on, and then certainly you can consult regarding how you're each going to respond to these 2 discussion posts. And again, these discussion posts are going to really help set you up for the assignment, the team assignment that's due in week 4. If anyone has any questions about any of this, it's a lot this week, I think, please let me know and I'm glad to answer those. And I really look forward to learning what communities you all will be focusing on and to reading your assignments this week. All right, everybody, have a great week.